typical. The one day I wanted the sun to shine for my visit to Boff Barrow, and look at it. I don't believe it. Still, anyway, I've borrowed this fisherman's hut. I'm going to have a go. Glad to be out of all that rain. Much drier in here. This week we're going to talk about pen and wash. Now, with pen and wash, we use a different paper, or it's better to use a different paper, certainly to start with, and then you get used to how the pen works on the paper. It's a much smoother surface, and it's a harder surface usually than a normal watercolor paper. Let me show you. First of all, let me show you how the paint goes on the paper. It doesn't go on the same as a watercolor paper. It sort of runs. Can you see that? It stays on the top. Actually, it's lovely, isn't it? And one of the nice things you can do with this is to mix the paint actually on the paper as you work. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that going down. Let's get a bit of yellow in that. Now, you can see what happens. It really is nice. But it's running. It isn't soaking in the same as it would do on watercolor paper. That really is nice. Look at that coming down there. Now, the idea with this is once you've done a drawing, and do a drawing first, is to paint over. Once you've painted over, let it dry. It must dry before you put the pen on it. I'll show you the pen. Now, this is what we call a dip-in pen. In other words, you have to dip into the ink to get it on the nib. It's like an old-fashioned nib. But it's a drawing pen, and it is made for drawing. You hold it the same way as you do a normal pen or a biro if you're going to write your name or do some writing, or, of course, the way we talked about pencils, the way you hold a pencil. And just let the pen go over the paper as though you were using a pencil. You see, there's no problem with it. If you go completely against the nib, or against the grain, if you like, you will find it could splatter and catch into the paper. Of course, it isn't splattering when I want to show you, but it could splatter. So be careful. On an upstroke, slightly just take the pressure off a bit. If you want a stronger stroke, then, or a thicker stroke, just press on more, and you get a darker and thicker, or not a darker, but a stronger, thicker stroke. And, of course, the same applies to drawing horizontal. Now, normally, the way that you apply this is to do a drawing in pencil, do a watercolour, but do it free. It's a lovely way of doing free watercolour on the top of your pencil. Don't worry about going over the edges. And then you pull it all together with the pen. So the pen comes second. But there is another way of doing it, and that is the pen first, and then when you've done the drawing in the pen, you can then paint over the pen, using the pen as a pencil, if you like, to draw everything, then paint over in your watercolour, and it's just another way of painting pen and wash. The only thing is with me, I feel you get a bit tight when you're working with the pen first and then colouring in. It's almost a case of colouring in. Whereas if you do the watercolour first and do it in a free way and pull it together with the pen, which is the way I'm going to show you in a minute, then it really is great. Now, I will show you just how the paint goes on top of the pen. Incidentally, when you do it this way, you must have waterproof ink. Don't use ordinary ink. It's got to be Indian waterproof ink. Because, you see, there's the boat. I've drawn this just before we started. It's cheating, isn't it? And I'm now painting over the top, and you can see that shall we call it or say it's a red boat on the bottom. Just put a bit of red on the bottom along here. Oh, we'll call it a red boat round here. Red boat, like that. Now, you see, it's going over the ink, but there's no problem. It isn't running. But if you were using a non-waterproof ink, that would all run and spread, and there's no way that you could do it this way. So make sure you've got waterproof ink. And of course, it's just a case of adding where you want to add. I'm letting it run in just to show you that it can still run in and keep it nice and free. And let's just put a bit of reflection down there and little bits and pieces. But you can see what happens. It just stays there like pencil, as long as I say, it's waterproof. Now, I've done the pencil drawing and we're ready for the wash. Incidentally, I put quite a bit of detail into this pencil drawing, and if, when you do this, the wash goes over the lines or over the shapes, it doesn't matter, because when they go over, we pull them all together with a pen when it's all dried at the end. And do use bags of water and let plenty of paint mix on the painting, on the paper, because it really is a lovely thing to do. Be free with it this time. Remember, we're pulling it together with a pen. Now, one of the beauties of putting in wash for pen and ink is that you can do it very freely. As you can see, I'm doing it now. There's no... You are following your pencil, but you can follow it freely without worry, because you'll pull it all together with your pen. Gosh, the tide's coming in quick. I think I might have a problem with the tide. Mind you, not as bad as the one we've had with the rain. There you see, I'm letting it just run in together. Just gives that nice bit of character. Look at it running down, isn't that gorgeous? Now, come over here. Again, we've got these green roofs rather than blue. It's amazing how many green roofs there are about. Notice the way I'm jumping around. I'm not just doing one little bit, I'm sort of all over. When I see something, I just paint it in. Remember, I'm not worried about the paint running together. It's a nice bright blue. It's amazing how blue it is considering the weather. But it stayed quite blue as that. And if we found that we'd painted it too blue, then all we need to do is to tone it down later. A bit of blue up there. Let's put some dark in for the windows. I love the sound of an outboard. Really is nice. Especially when you're working away. Just gives that little bit of touch to what you're painting when you've got that in the background. It's rather nice. I want that wall behind the boats and, of course, underneath the house, because that's a gorgeous dark that we've got against our light or light-coloured boat. So let's get that in. A bit through a window, bit through a window there, because obviously you can see through the window. So we'll just put one or two bits in there, leave room for the mast. Oh, doesn't it go down there lovely? It really is a treat the way it's just the fact that when you put watercolour on here, it looks juicy. It's strange because when you put in a wash on, it looks juicy, but there's something about this when it's all sort of going together like this. It really is nice. Now, don't worry about the ropes on the boats. Don't think they call them ropes.
but don't worry about them, because just paint over them, and the pen, of course, is going to do that. Now, we'll put it in with the pen. Now, I'm just watching this. That goes up. Now, we should be higher on that one. We'll take it up there now. That's gone. That's up to there. There's a little river of water running through there. So we'll put that in. Now, there's no need to paint everything in when you're painting. Oh, I mustn't forget those. They're those lovely coloured fenders. Always seem to be day-glow colour nowadays. There's a little puddle of water down there. Must get that in. Through there. We'll just give a little bit of... It's sort of almost a feeling of water down there in the mud underneath the boat. Those boats will be darker against this muddy water underneath, which will be rather nice, because it will give us dark against light again. Nice silhouette. That's nice through there. Just notice I'm getting a bit freer with the brush, and this is important because you can't get too tight. Incidentally, there's one thing I haven't mentioned, and I must say this, that there's a boat on the side. There was a boat here that I didn't bother to put in, simply because it wasn't good for the composition. So I left that out, but put this one in here, and believe me, it really helps the composition. If there's anything that you think helps a design of a picture, or the composition as we call it, then you alter it. But don't take something out where you don't know what's behind, because you've no idea what's behind it, and you could have a problem putting something in, or of course you might get it wrong, and that's worse. But you can see how it's all building up, but it's building up very freely, which is rather nice. Could do with a bit more red in that. Now we're ready to put the pen on. Remember, it's the pen that brings it all together. All those lovely washes that have gone on, those lovely colours that are mixed together. It's now the pen that brings the form and shape back into the painting. Don't be afraid of the pen. Use it as a pencil. Let it go up and down and move it around. Work from left to right again, because remember, this means that you're going to keep your paint area or painting area dry, so you're not smudging. You'll find like that you get blobs, and it doesn't matter. That's all part of it. We'll just put this window in while we're here. Coming along now. I'm not going to do too much with the distance. They're the little sort of tiles on the top. What I'm going to do, I'm going to come back to that if I need to, but if I do too much pen work in the distance, then I might find that I bring it forward too much. At the moment, it's all very, very soft. And the dark under there and under there. Just fill in little areas as you go with the pen. Oh, we've got a telegraph pole up there, which we must put in. It seems to stop there, and then it goes down there. And we've got lovely posts sticking down here from the fish market. And there's things happening in there. I can't see exactly, but we'll shade that in there Remember, you're shading with a pen as well as drawing lines. It isn't just drawing lines. And little bits of sort of things that are happening. You can't see exactly what's happening in there because it's quite a way away. Then we've got this window. Now, this is as far as I shall go back to start with. Incidentally, if you press on with a pen, you're going to get a much darker or thicker line than if you just do it gently. So you have got slight control over the pen, and if you work the pen sideways, you'll get it a thicker line as well. Now, this is where I'm not pressing on at all, hardly. I just want to give one or two sort of... There's a car there. Well, it may as well just suggest it. Doesn't matter if it doesn't look like a car, it's movement, it's things that's happening up there. And we've got, gosh, this rain. I'll tell you what, very lucky. I'm in a fisherman's hut. Fisherman allowed me to go in it, and I must say, it's, I couldn't have painted today if I hadn't have had this hut. So believe me, I'm very grateful. These are brollies. They're almost blowing inside out now, because it really is coming down, and that's the side of the house. Now, this is where we'll leave the barrel, just put a little touch on there to suggest that going around, but we don't want much more up there. Just take the shape of the harbour wall there, just suggest one or two little bits in it. Now, that has got a mast up here. Now, I'll put that mast on later because that's wet over there. So always be prepared to move on if you're going into wet paint. That fender under there, and that lovely darkness under there where we've got the, I don't know what they call them, all I know is they're the bits that stop it falling over in the harbour. They sort of come and hold the boat steady, stabilise it. And that's all very nice and juicy, bit of a reflection in the mud. Well, now they're tied, the boats have actually started to float now, so we've got a few problems. But bear in mind that I did draw this rather correctly, or not correctly, I put a lot of drawing in it to start with. And this is now helping me because I had the feeling that the tide would come up before I got it finished. And of course, it does help when you've got a reasonable drawing to work from. Don't know what that is, some blue thing there, I've no idea what it is. Then the dark under there, we're going to get some more dark. Oh, there's a propeller there, which we must show. Let's have a look at the back of that one again. Got that coming down like that, just to make sure we've got, that's it, lovely. Now, over to here, another cabin and a window. This is where you can really sort of let freedom come into it. And also, it's rather nice when you're sort of letting it go and you're getting a definite line, because obviously the pen gives a real crispness. It's a lovely thing to work with, but at the same time you've got to like it. It's like all mediums. Pen and ink is the same as oil or watercolour. It's got its own things that you like about it or dislike about it, and some people can work with it and some people can't. Well, fine. This is all right. This is what painting is all about. This is the nice thing about painting. Oh, did you see that lovely run of black ink? Wasn't that nice? Well, let that happen. Don't worry about it. Don't try and blot it out when you see it happen. Just accept it as being part of working in pen and ink. And if you splatter your work, don't worry about that either. I've got to fill that in solid, by the way, because we've got a window drawn through that. Now, if if you splatter the work, that is part of it. And it adds a lovely freedom to it. And now I'm down in the closer areas, in other words, closer to us. In the foreground, I'm using the pen slightly more sideways, and I'm getting a thicker line. And this, of course, is what I want, because the thicker the line, the better it is, because we've got a feeling of being in the foreground. Everything is heavier. Where we're in the distance, we're just be a bit lighter and more gentle with the pen. Now, I've got so many things on this. This is absolutely full here of ropes and wires and all sorts of things. This at the stern, remember it then, the stern on the back here. And then there's another one coming off there. Window in here. And we've got a little black thing there, I don't know what it is. And then through underneath, we've got bags of ropes coming. I mean, this is pen in all its glory to me. I mean, this is what really pen is. I really like it when you get involved. I mean, I'm really getting involved in this now. And of course, when you get involved, you start to live the part and really get excited about it. These I can't understand. I just can't make out. It's raining so much, I can't go outside of this fisherman's hut that I've got and have a look. But there's some black things there. I've got no idea what they are. But all I can do is, and they seem to have ropes and wires from them, and all I can do, obviously, is to put them in, because they're there, and it's part of the image. Now, I'm just looking at the picture now. Looking at that, I think we need just a little bit more under here. A little bit more there, just to show. Just notice the pen's dotting at the moment, just over here in the distance. And it's just another way of breaking it, so it isn't too hard. You can break it there. Just look at that. They're quite distinct, those little bits. And in fact, looking at that, I don't think there's much more I can do with it. No, I'm happy. I've kept all that pale in the background because of the rain and the mist. I haven't put pen on it. And then we've come down and I've added pen into the middle distance, more into the foreground, and of course, more and thicker pen work on this foreground boat. And I haven't worried if it's splattered or whether it's gone thick or left blobs. Well, I'm happy with that. I'll call it a day. See you next week.
Alwyn Crawshaw has written